speaker is David Eichhorn. He is our AVP of Zenzar's Data Center Services. Dave will share with us how enterprise automation and DevOps come together through the power of the Vinci, Zenzar's new intelligent managed services platform powered by automation, autonomics, and orchestration utilizing machine learning. Dave?
It's great to be here today, and while I do head the Data Center Services program, we renamed it about a year ago to Unified IT. And as I go through the discussion today, hopefully you're going to recognize things that we're doing in infrastructure management services and cloud that Unified IT. But before I start the topic of intelligent automation and DevOps, I want to share two stories that hopefully are going to set a little bit of context. Both stories are about buying cars. Both stories took place in 2015. One's the digital delight story, and the other is the digital destruction story. So the digital delight story we'll start with first. There's a CIO named Vic Abbott, who at the time in 2015 was the CIO of EMC, now Verizon Enterprises where he's located. And he shared a story about going with his family to the mall. And when they went to the mall, the purpose was, let's have mom and their daughter shop for clothes at Nordstrom's. And Vic will be with his son and bond a little bit walking around. Well, they walked around, and they, lo and behold, found themselves with a Tesla. Imagine, you know, the changes that we're going under. You can find a car and buy a car in a mall. So with not much else to do, what they decided was, let's sit down in the car and let's check it out. And the first thing that his son says is, Dad, wow, look at the screen on this dashboard. I could do my homework here. And so Vic smiled and said, okay, we've got a deal. You're going to go ahead and do your homework in the garage, and then when you go to school, I'm going to drive the Tesla to work back and forth. And so he bought the car. Fast forward a couple weeks later, he's traveling in Europe. He gets a text message on his handheld, and it says, Vic, you're a great customer of Tesla's. Thanks for buying our car. We just want to inform you, we installed software on your engine. You've got now increased functionality and increased performance. Just imagine, he didn't have to go to a mechanic. He didn't have any windshield time, all the benefits of that transaction. And he was really, really excited being in the industry. Couldn't wait to get back into his car. So that's digital delight. Digital destruction, that's my story. About the same time, summer of 2015, we were looking, my wife and I, for a car for her. We have three kids, and she drives all over the place doing various activities. And we needed a fuel-efficient car. So we settled on a VW Passat, and 3 months later, we were informed there was a major violation in the United States out of California with the EPA and the diesel emissions of the car, some of you may know. So as a result, we had to deal with a process that has continued up to this day, where we had to decide, are we going to return the car or are we going to fix the car? VW has been struggling with this problem, and they haven't been able to actually provide the software fix that's going to address the car. And it is a software fix. It's not I have to go to the dealer and they're going to change the catalytic converter. They actually can't get their act together to be able to execute a software fix. So imagine what it's been doing to the business. If they could have come to us a week or 2 weeks after this announcement and said, we're going to fix your car, do what Tesla did, over the wire, and get yourself running again, and everything will be fine, I'd probably be keeping the car. We like the car, but we're returning the car. They've lost the customer, and I'm not the only one, several other people are. And the brand absolutely has been tarnished. But they're a good company, and we expect they're going to come back. But, you know, the differences of those two stories are enlightening, I think, as we talk about what we're doing here in digital and what we're doing in infrastructure management services. I remarked on a lot of the presentations today, a lot of consistency, and in some respect, within our presentation here today. The beginnings of this story is going through the digital drivers to IT operations, what we call the data wave. You see some of the trends. We've talked about these platforms. There's others we could add into your IoT, but the data is what we're having to deal with within our IT operations. And it's a very big challenge, a very real challenge. Our objective, as we've talked about in a couple other presentations, is doing digital transformation to get better business outcomes. And there are two important things here. There's software automation, but there's also the part of the services business, and these two things being unified to be able to deliver a superior customer experience and deliver on it in a superior way. So as you see with the illustrations here, we're talking about the robot, the hand, mixing up with a human, the hand, and this data wave, instead of being crushed by it, we're going to ride it. We're going to be surfing on it if we do it right. Zensar has taken that input, and we have focused our energies over the past year to introduce a product managed services platform, intelligent managed services platform called the Vinci. I encourage all of you today to come out and see the Vinci and how it performs in our booth. Every time we've shown a client this product, they've gotten really excited. The Vinci has some very, very ambitious targets, but they're real targets. When we show these numbers to clients, getting 60% savings, 30% productivity, and 30% go-to-market improvements, those are significant numbers to any CIO. How are we doing that? How are we delivering those business benefits? Well, under savings, we're eliminating work. And if we can't eliminate the work, we're going to reduce the amount of work that's needed. That, and of course, other things we can do within the infrastructure, software-defined, is very impactful and makes that number real. So that's the cheaper we've been talking about. The productivity is really about empowering the users, both the client users and the users internal to your organization, giving them tools that they can do their job better through automation. And then go to market, again, a benefit of cheaper, better, and faster, the momentum that we were talking about, is empowering the entire business, working together under unified IT. What you see on the right is the integrated solution layers, and integration is key to this discussion. We have focused on the end user, first and foremost, and being able to detect what's going on in the operation as well as in the infrastructure. At the heart, everything going through your IT service management. And highlighted there, intelligent automation, COASH, is a knowledge repository of intelligent runbook automation. And we'll talk about a little bit more how that works. But essentially, it's the management of a long list of artifacts of automated services that you can input into your program and eliminate the work. And then finally, of course, cloud transformation, where you're looking at adopting the capabilities that are outside of your four walls, as well as whatever you're keeping in your four walls to be able to scale. All of these are integrated, and they're integrating platforms with various tool sets we'll talk further about in the next couple of slides. So if we apply the Vinci to enterprise, we're trying to help all enterprise competitively differentiate through digital, again, software-driven business models, building those through real-time customer experiences. There are a couple of fundamental elements in terms of being able to do that. First and foremost, you have to be able to gather that data that's coming at you, and you have to be able to deliver with the insights you get by understanding that data. You're trying to create inside your organization an operating software factory model. And then you're trying to set up an environment that's right for the business, an environment that is unified, where you're removing the walls. And then lastly, but equally important, and a couple of the presentations talked about it, is the tracking of how you're delivering. How are you performing? How are your employees reacting to your delivery? How is your customers interacting with your business? At the bottom here, the Vinci 1.0, which has been released, has been focused on hybrid IT deployments and IT support, again, through the end user lens. On the right side, and where we're shifting the conversation now into DevOps, is Vinci 2.0, which is what we're bringing to the market. So let's talk about the DevOps software delivery lifecycle for a few minutes. And let's see, what are the challenges we're dealing with. And the first one here we're listing is the lack of automation. Having to manually create environments, having to have hands-on testing, having to deal with software, all of that takes time. All of that takes energy. It impacts productivity, and it interferes with your software builds, and it gets into a place where you're starting to do workarounds. The next one is poor orchestration. You're having to rely on manually scripting to ensure interdependencies between what you're building and the organizations you're working with come together. That's going to slow your process. That's going to limit your teams from being empowered. The bottlenecks, having to hand off protocols, and having to coordinate activities, all a challenge. This encourages more poor practice and bad habits, and it also gets into a situation where instead of executing on your code, it's batching up, building up, and then you've got a longer release delay and you've missed things in the front end, resulting in integration problems. There's also a lot of pressure on the operations side of the development. The operations side gets pulled in too late, and at that time, the process is already executed. They've got the pressure to make things production ready. Again, you're going to miss key insights that you would have had up front. You're going to be in a place where the quality of the code is going to enter into production, and you're going to have problems downstream, which is not where you want to have them. And finally, having testing silos. When organizations are operating independent of each other, they're going to have different views of the software, and they're going to be conflicting in terms of their interpretations of it being correct. That's going to cause more confusion in the system. It's going to compromise the testing and the overall software quality. So our objective is to get into a continuous development and delivery process. And in order to do that, these fundamental principles have to be achieved. You have to build trust inside of your organization. You do that by ensuring that you have a consistent and repeatable and predictable software process. You have to have speed. You have to be able to rapidly meet what is not anticipated. And you have to eliminate the manual activities that you have in order to continue to accelerate. Obviously, you need to bring value into the system. You have to ensure that the right controls are in place. This doesn't just run by itself for making your applications and services work. And you have to have reliability. You have to ensure, again, that the controls are in place that make your applications and the associated service work. This is not going to be perfection. This is one of the things that, people get excited about, but they get fearful of, it's got to all work perfectly. That's not what we're in the business of trying to do. We're trying to build an environment for transformation that's going to result in transformation. And if we do that, we will get better and better and better as we go along. So, taking the Vinci, the platform that I described, and pushing it into the DevOps environment and joining it with Agile starts telling the story of how we break down silos in the software development lifecycle process. So this up front here, what you see in the slide are the various entities that have to participate in software development. And these black boxes in between are representing the separation between the organization. And as we go further down the line, again, as I talked about with operations, a bigger wall that you have to hurdle. We look at DevOps, and by introducing integration, what happens is those black boxes are starting to blur. We're starting to see the confluence and the coming together of each of these organizations so they can start operating as one team versus several different teams, and get to a place with agile methodologies where you're running with a small yet integrated team providing speed, reliability, and scalability. As you can see in the diagram here, ops actually starts at the beginning with the development team. They're working together. They're not being separated. We're moving things as one, and we're going much, much faster in constricting the process and getting a better quality product. Now, how does the Vinci enable this to happen? So this is a diagram here that just basically shows you those layers I talked about before. And let's just walk through the integration as an example. Up in the right-hand corner here, you see the end user layer. The end user layer is where everything's going to start. So if I'm an application developer, I'm going to ingest into the system. I want to go ahead and I want to, actually develop some code here, design a new application. That's going to point in an automated way with an entry, and that can be done, again, self-programmed into your ITSM layer. Your IT service management layer, as I mentioned before, is at the heart of all this. It will hit the IT service management layer. It will recognize, okay, this is what you want to do. And then it's going to go to this knowledge repository, KOSH. And KOSH stands for Knowledge Orchestration Systemic Healing. That's a very important acronym, and the terms that are associated with it. This is a list of artifacts associated with software development that are going to be tapped to execute on the particular request that's being made of it. Coach says, I find an article, I find an artifact, I can run that process in an automated way, goes back through the ITSM layer, and says, hey, we need some resources, let's go to the cloud services layer and tap into those. The cloud services layer comes back, presents those back through the ITSM system, back to the end user, and says, environment is up, ready to go ahead and do your work. Now up in the upper left-hand corner, there's the detection layer. Well, if something goes wrong, we have to be able to address it. That's what the detection layer is doing. It's seeing how the process is going. If it sees something that's not working, it raises its hand. Now, you don't see people here, but people are equally important. Things may not be available in Coach. We're going to rely on the teams to be able, in the operations, to be able to do what the automation may not do. But the process of going through this is going to feed Coach with new information, new intelligence, get smarter, keep going, and keep doing more things in an automated way. So when we have done that, the end result is a positive one. The developer and tester is now saying, you know, the build, the unit, the tests, the functional testing, all of those things that I used to be preoccupied with, and quite frankly is not my core competency, I don't have to do it now. It's just happening. The release manager is real time with the dashboards is watching, gosh, the release is going great. I don't have to bury my head into these Excel spreadsheets and have to continue to track from a program management perspective. We're leveraging the automation, as you can see here, some of the tools that we partner with that are able to orchestrate and automate the process. The business is saying, IT, you're doing great. You're responding more nimbly to my requests. I've got to now speed up. You're pushing me, and that's what we want to do in IT. We don't want to support. We want to be driving the business forward. And then finally, the operations. Hey, you know what? I know what's coming. I know what to expect, and I know I can deploy this and test it. So that's a great story of integration for DevOps. As we apply the solution going forward, the traditional waterfall model, sequential, many different steps, taking several days, is moving into a DevOps model. And the DevOps model, as we talked about through the other slide, the requirements coming into the source code, down to the unit, utilizing Jenkins here to go ahead and do your build, your code review, and then we go out and we push an email back out to the client to do what it has to do. That goes from several days to several hours. And what we've represented here in a table here is just with a couple clients independently here. You know, a couple of stats. Continuous deployment, release frequency. And again, dictated by the type of organization we're dealing with, but instead of having one release half a year, another release in the other half of the year, you know, we move up and we've had 12 releases in a year. It's a 400% improvement. In terms of deploying, trying to go faster, pre-DevOps, something that would have to be done that we described would take 4 hours. We're doing it in 15 minutes. It's a 94% improvement. Mean time to recover, again, if we have an issue, took us 2 hours pre-DevOps. Now we're post-DevOps. We're doing it in 30 minutes, and we're doing it 75% better. So powerful statistics we can track, statistics the business gets excited about, the trust, the reliability, the confidence in the organization, and we're moving forward. So that's my presentation. I leave you with a quote that I love here, and I think, again, it speaks to the unifying of all of us. You know, when what you're thinking can actually tie into what you're saying, and you're all in harmony, you know, you've gotten to the promised land. So I'm going to take a pause here. We have a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, then in that case, thank you very much.